All right, welcome. If you're just getting into trading, you need to listen up. Seriously, this is the one thing I wish somebody had drilled into my head on day one. It would have saved me so much hassle and, yeah, a lot of money. So let's just dive right in.
Okay, before we get to the good stuff, the solution, we've got to face something a little tough. A harsh truth, really. It's something every single trader, myself included, has to deal with before they can even dream of being successful.
So look at this, 90%. That's a huge number, right? What it means is that a staggering 90% of people who start trading, they lose money and they fail. They come in with these huge dreams and most of them just end up with an empty account. It's wild. So the obvious question is, why? I mean, really, why? Why do so many people fail? Is it just terrible luck? Is the whole system rigged against them? Nope. The real reason is actually way, way simpler than you probably think.
Yeah, the reason so many people fail, it's not some super complicated market secret or some crazy theory you need a PhD to understand. It all boils down to one really basic mistake that almost everybody makes.
And this right here? This is the big difference. It's what separates the winners from the losers. On one side, you've got that 90% who are losing. And what's their common thread? They're trading without any kind of plan. They're basically just throwing darts at a board. They're gambling. But then you look at that successful minority, and they always have a plan. And let's be super clear about this. This has nothing to do with luck. It's all about discipline. The traders who actually make it, they're not just guessing. They calculate their exact risk before they even think about clicking the buy button. They know exactly how much they stand to lose, and they're okay with that risk before they ever dream about the reward.
So, the big question is, how do you end up on the right side of that line? Well, it all comes down to one single thing. And if you take nothing else away from this, please remember this. This is the golden rule that's going to keep you in the game. You know, you can forget all the fancy, complicated algorithms and the super expensive software for a second. The real secret to just surviving in trading is a really simple, really powerful, and honestly, a completely non-negotiable rule.
And here it is. Get ready. Never risk more than 1% of your capital on a single trade. That's it. That's the whole secret. So if you've got $10,000 in your account, you never, ever risk more than $100 on one trade. If you have $1,000, your max risk is $10. I'm telling you, this is the single most important piece of advice you will ever get as a new trader, period.
But why? Why is this one little percent so incredibly powerful? I know what you're probably thinking. It sounds kind of small, right? Like, how are you supposed to make any real money risking so little? Well, it's because this isn't about one trade. It's about playing the long game.
Okay, so here's how it works. The logic is so simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. When you stick to that 1% rule, you're basically guaranteeing that one bad trade can't wipe you out. It just can't happen. And that keeps you in the game long enough for the odds to start tilting your way. You keep all your losses tiny, and that gives your winning treats room to actually run and grow. The result? Well, it's less loss and more profit over time.
Look, don't get it twisted. This is not some get-rich-quick scheme. It is a stay-in-the-game strategy. As a new trader, your first job isn't making $1 million. Your first job is just to survive long enough to learn how this whole thing works. This rule, this is your armor, it's what's going to keep you standing while almost everyone else gets knocked out.
So at the end of the day, it really just comes down to a simple choice, right? A choice about discipline. So I'll just leave you with this one question. Now that you know the single most important rule for surviving in this game, what's your first step going to be?